What's up, everybody? We are almost there. With a little more than a month left till Civil War kicks off, the speculation machine has kicked into full blast. We've now seen the final trailer, which includes Spider-Man, and it gives us a better idea of whose team everyone is on. And with rumors this past week that Civil War might not only have one end credit scene, but anywhere up to 3 end credit scenes, the internet has put itself, myself included, into a tizzy, wondering what they could expect to see and what everything could allude to in those end credit scenes. But the more I thought about it, the more I began to wonder, do the end credit scenes really give us all that much in the way of information? Since 2008, there have been 12 Marvel movies, and all have included a minimum of 1 end credit scene. And with the release of Ant-Man last summer ending Phase 2, there are a total of 17 end credit scenes for the Marvel movies at this point. Some there just for fun, and some there to actually advance the arcing story of the MCU. But as an audience, we somehow have convinced ourselves that they always further the plot of the story. And not only that, but we somehow feel like we're owed these end credit scenes and are somehow cheated when they aren't there or don't allude to anything in the future. So let's walk through each one of the end credit scenes and see how many of them actually do point towards future events in the MCU. After the credits roll in 2008's Iron Man, we see Tony Stark wandering into his house to find Nick Fury, who is waiting to talk to him about the Avengers initiative. This is the first time we hear about the Avengers, and it pretty much sets up the MCU beyond Iron Man as a standalone film, so without a doubt, this one counts as furthering the plot of the overarching story. So that's 1 out of 17.
I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger initiative.
The end credit scene of The Incredible Hulk has General Ross drinking his sorrows away in a bar where he is approached by Tony Stark, who informs him that they were putting a team together. Though it does go into a bit more detail than Iron Man's end credit scene, with the alluding to Captain America, it's pretty much just giving us the same information that the previous end credit scene did. So if I'm being completely objective, I can't really give this one a full point, so I'm going to give it a half a point. So that's 1.5 out of 17. The third movie in the MCU is Iron Man 2, and Iron Man 2's end credit scene does quite a few things. Not only does it feature Agent Coulson, who we had met before in the original Iron Man movie, but it also gives us a glimpse of our next movie, Thor. So Iron Man 2's end credit scene totally counts. 2.5 out of 17. The end credit scene for Thor is a huge setup for the Avengers by setting up the driving force in the movie, the Tesseract, which coincidentally is also the catalyst for the Avengers Infinity War. Not only that, but it also sets up Loki as the villain for the Avengers. So the end credit scene for Thor is a total look at the future. That's 1 more point to make it 3.5 out of 17. Next up, we have Captain America the First Avenger. Now this one is a bit of an opinion on my behalf, but I don't think this one counts. Because even though it is Nick Fury putting the team together, it's basically just a scene from the movie The Avengers followed by a teaser trailer for the movie The Avengers. And since the exciting thing about end credit scenes is that they give us ancillary information for future movies, my personal view is that end credit scenes like this don't really count. So Captain America the First Avenger gets no points. Still 3.5 out of 17. The Avengers gave us a couple of firsts when it comes to Marvel and their end credit scenes. Firstly, it's the first of all the movies to have more than 1 end credit scene. Secondly, we get our first look at Thanos in this clip, which pretty much is the driving thread throughout Phase 2, and I'm guessing will be throughout Phase 3, up to Infinity War Part 1 and 2. So the first end credit scene for Avengers sets up more than enough for it to count. 1 more point, making it 4.5 out of 17. The second clip, though, isn't so much a look to the future as it was a look to about 10 minutes in the past when Tony Stark is brought back to life by the Hulk's roar. And suggests that the team goes and gets shawarma.
You ever tried shawarma? There's a shawarma joint about 2 blocks from here. I don't know what it is, but I want to try it.
So it's a fun scene, but in no way counts towards future plot points. Still 4.5 out of 17. Iron Man 3 was a follow-up to the Avengers and the beginning of Phase 2. The end credit scene for this basically reveals that the plot of the movie was just Tony talking to Bruce Banner as a therapist and telling him the events of the movie. Again, it's a funny scene, sure, but does it give us any insight into upcoming events? Not a chance. Still 4.5 out of 17. The follow-up to Thor and the first solo movie sequel not based around Iron Man was Thor: The Dark World. This movie has 2 end credit scenes, the first of which set up a couple of things for future movies, and it also tied a few other things together. First, it gave us the introduction to the Collector, who we meet later on in Guardians of the Galaxy. Secondly, it tied characters from the Thor movies besides Thor and Loki into the greater MCU. And third, it gave more of an indication of what was to come by showing that the Infinity Stones are something to keep apart from one another, meaning that they could be dangerous. So with all of that info coming our way, you can totally be sure that this one gets a point. That's 5.5 out of 17. The second end credit scene from Thor The Dark World is a strange one, more setting up that Thor and Jane's relationship will still continue beyond this movie. That's not real foreshadowing for any future films because it's brought back up later in Age of Ultron. So no real points given there because it's not information that wouldn't be given somewhere else in an actual movie later down the line. Plus, did anyone really care about this? This scene is a strange one also because it goes straight from the romantic reuniting of Thor and Jane into a humorous shot of a large monster from another realm ending up on Earth and chasing birds. That could count as a future plot point, I guess, if you really want to stretch it, but there's no evidence to that, so no points for this scene. The first end credit scene from Captain America: The Winter Soldier is a huge lead into the Avengers: Age of Ultron. Not only does it show us that the events of the movie that we had just watched aren't exactly what they seem, with Hydra still being in existence, but it also introduces main plot points, such as Loki's staff being in possession of Hydra, and our first glimpse of Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. So this scene counts. That's 6.5 out of 17. The Winter Soldier's second scene is a tough one. It doesn't really point to anything specific in the future, so I can't really say that it's leading to anything that does count, but it does show us Bucky is alive. And him being alive is what seems to be the catalyst for Captain America: Civil War. But also, we knew he was alive because we see him save Cap and walk away at the end of this very movie. So seeing as how it doesn't really give us any exciting information, but it does count towards something in the future, I'm going to give this one half a point, so that's 7 out of 17. The end credit scenes for Guardians of the Galaxy were sort of oddballs. It seems like this would have been a big opportunity to do something with the Infinity Stones, seeing as how this movie basically centered around the battle for one of them, but it didn't. It took the two end credit scenes, and I'm saying two loosely, and made them both jokey. First off, we have what is officially listed as an end credit scene, but it's really just a tag directly at the end of the movie, and turned it into a shot of Baby Groot in a pot dancing around. A lot of people argue that this shows that Groot isn't dead, but they showed that he wasn't dead in the movie when Rocket is walking around at the end with a pot with a baby Groot growing in it. So just out of lack of understanding of how this one could possibly count, I'm not giving it any points. Still 7 out of 17. The second end credit scene of Guardians of the Galaxy takes us back to nowhere and shows the aftermath of the Collector's Museum. We do get to see Cosmo the telepathic dog and a look at Howard the Duck, but I highly doubt either of those will turn into anything. So no points for this one, still 7 out of 17. In Avengers: Age of Ultron, we get one end credit scene. It's a Thanos putting on the Infinity Gauntlet, and since the next time we get to see the Avengers will be in Infinity War 1, this is leading into that, and this counts. 8 out of 17.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
Ant-Man ended Phase 2 and gave us two end credit scenes to ponder over while we wait for Phase 3 to begin with Captain America: Civil War. The first of which follows Hank and Hope into the lab where the Ant-Man suit was first developed, and Hank reveals to Hope the Wasp suit that he has developed for her. Seeing as how it was officially announced that there will be a movie called Ant-Man and the Wasp, this one totally counts. This is 9 out of 17. And that brings us to the final end credit scene for the first two phases of the MCU. It's just a scene from Captain America: Civil War, and though it was cool to see, it's nothing that we wouldn't have seen if we had just waited till the movie came out. So no point for this one. We end at 9 out of 17. So in closing, out of 12 movies and 17 end credit scenes, barely more than half count. And it's only slightly above half because I was being generous with the Bucky scene at the end of The Winter Soldier. I guess the main takeaway from this video should be to stop worrying so much about if there will be an end credits scene and what they will mean in the MCU, or any cinematic universe for that matter. At a minimum, they're fun. And when you really break it down, that's what these movies are supposed to be about. Fun. Alright everybody, thanks for listening to me rant on this one. If you have any thoughts on anything I've said here, please let me know, good or bad, in the comments below. If you like this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you would please subscribe to my channel, give me a like, and share this video so more people can see it. If you like hearing my thoughts on things like this, I have a podcast called Mainstream Geek that I do twice a week, linked in the description below. So go check that out and give it a listen. If it's something you dig, make sure that you subscribe to that and leave me a rating and review. Until my next video, keep it geeky.